Thank you all for coming tonight. I'm Mark Lynch, treasurer of the Essex Lions Club. Our president, Richard Ross, could not be here tonight, so I will be moderating. We're going to get started. Just a little bit about the Lions Club I thought I'd start off with. We are a small group in town, but we do some important things in terms of benevolence and giving back to the community. That's what we're all about. Do things such as helping. I think we partnered with the PTO on the basketball courts that you see behind the school here, and those were in memory of a student that was on his college tour of visits who was tragically killed in an automobile accident. So that was something we were very happy to participate in, a very sad event, obviously. We sponsor the Turkey Trot each year, and that's the road race that you see the Sunday before Thanksgiving. That's one of our major fundraisers. We also work the concession stands at the Clam Fest. And coming up in a couple weeks is Senior Night, where we have a dinner for the graduating Essex seniors from high school. And we give a $1,000 scholarship each year if we can. And also under our purview is about a little over $20,000 in other community scholarships that have been, that people have left as their bequest. One of the major scholarships is the Essex Veterans. And are there any Essex veterans here tonight who were involved in setting up that scholarship? Well, we not only thank them for their service, but it's quite an impressive endowment that allows over $10,000 each year in scholarships to Essex students. So it's really a big part of that program. We also do things such as this, a candidates night. And that's a chance. The Lions Club does not take any political position, but we offer candidates a chance to introduce themselves, to speak to some of the issues. We also would try to disseminate information on key town meeting warrant articles as well. So if you're interested in joining the Lions, see me or anyone else. We meet every other Wednesday, September to April at the Windward Grill, and we'll happy to buy you dinner if you want to find out what the club's all about. So definitely check it out. It's pretty light lifting for some community service, so that's why those of us involved do enjoy it. Some ground rules for tonight. I found it's always a good thing in a group setting like this to go over some ground rules, and pretty simple. If you look around this building, or if you have kids that go to the school, core values are reflected, mainly just treating each other with respect, treating each other as you would want to be treated. So it's fine if we disagree on the issues. It should be done in a respectful way, and people should be respectful of things such as time and other people's opportunities to speak. So we just appreciate if you make sure that happens. KPN TV is recording this tonight. You can watch it on channel 12 at some point. We'd ask you to silence cell phones or put them on vibrate if you would. In terms of the procedures, each candidate will have 5 minutes to introduce themselves and say why they're running. There are 2 predetermined questions for the Board of Assessor candidates and the Selectmen, those will be 5-minute responses each. And then there are 3 questions for the school committee. During each section, when the candidates get to speak, section being the office they're running for, I will also allow questions from you, the audience, if there are any, and you can direct it to the candidate you would like to. We're allowing 2 minutes for those responses. Any questions? Okay. Our candidates tonight for Assessor: Michael Cataldo, Steve Poulos; Selectmen: Jeffrey Jones, Andrew Craig Spinney; School Committee: Alva Ingaharo and Rachel Fitzgibbon. And the candidates agreed that the first order of introduction would be as they're listed on our agenda, as I just read. So we'll go ahead and get started. First is Board of Assessor Michael Cataldo, and he will say why he's running for this position.
Hi. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for your interest tonight and to welcome you to this candidates discussion. For those who do not know, I'm Mike Cataldo, and I'm running for the assessor seat. I've been a resident of Essex for over 40 years. As I look around the room, I see so many people who give so much to the town to keep it running smoothly. I too have always made efforts to give something back to our town. While I will be new in this position, I have served on many other town boards and social organizations. I have participated in every town meeting and voted in every election since we moved here back in 1978. This particular fact is important because participating in town events and on town boards, you come to understand what issues impact the town and how the townspeople feel about its future. I have a business management degree from Boston College, a master's degree from Boston University, and have spent 25 years as marketing director at Logan Airport. I have served for 10 years on the Essex Planning Board and 5 years on the Essex Conservation Commission. I've learned how to read and interpret local and state regulations. While there's a lot for me to still learn about the rules and regulations impacting the Assessor's Office, I plan to watch and learn from the 2 other people currently holding the assessor's positions, as well as from Brenda, who manages the assessor's office. I will also discuss procedures with other elected assessors from other similar-sized offices around the state. And of course, I will take the course required by the Commonwealth Department of Revenue for all assessors. This, combined with the fact that I have spent time in the office and plan to be there during the week, since I am currently retired, I should be able to get up to speed quickly on the different regulations and procedures. The greatest thing I can offer to the residents of Essex is the ability to help them understand what the job of an assessor is, where to locate pertinent information, what the process is to get an abatement or an appeal, and to assist them in any other way possible. We should be a customer service to assist and help people. I retired from my job in January of 2014. In August of the same year, I had a stroke which left me partially paralyzed on my right side. After a time in rehab and help from my wife and friends, I've worked my way back, regaining both my driver's license and working with physical therapists to restore most of my mobility. I have recently been traveling for business and pleasure. Mentally and physically, I am up to being an Essex assessor and believe I can perform this job as needed. And I would be honored if you would reinforce this belief by voting for me on May 8th. Thanks for listening, and I hope you'll come out and vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Steve Poulos on why you're running for the position. And I do apologize, the sound system gives us fits. If the candidates cannot go anywhere near that mic, it'll be appreciated. Even the slightest bump of it makes that static noise, so I know it's... No, don't touch it. No, I'm kidding.
Thanks everyone for coming out tonight. My name is Steve Poulos. Can everyone hear it? And I'm running for the vacant seat on the Board of Assessors. I live up on 156 Eastern Ave with my wife and daughter, and we're actually expecting a baby boy in about 6 weeks. So it's certainly an exciting time in our house. My wife and I really like the small town feel and the small town values here in Essex. The opening in the Board of Assessors really gives me an opportunity to give back. I'm actually an assessor by trade, so it gives me the opportunity to kind of leverage my experience and really give back to the town. I'm currently the chief assessor in the town of Danvers, formerly the chief assessor for the town of Bedford, and I was the assistant assessor in the town of Weston before that. So I have experience with valuation and laws of Chapter 58 Mass General Law, from $30 million estates in Weston to $50,000 seasonal cottage in Bedford and everything in between. We have complex commercial properties in Danvers, Liberty Tree Mall, down to the mom and pop type retail space. So I have experience on all levels with there. I have my MAA designation, which is the Massachusetts Accredited Assessors designation. It's required hundreds of hours of class time and certain levels of responsibility. I have a graduate certificate from Northeastern University in Geographic Information Systems. I sit on the executive board of the Essex County Assessors Association, where we help other communities in Essex County with any issues that they have in their assessor's office. And also I've served as an expert witness, valuation witness at the Appellate Tax Board in Boston. Some of my my specialties that I would bring to the board if elected would be leveraging technology to increase oversight and accuracy, valuation, and streamline operations. Really, valuation is the backbone of assessing. What every assessor's office strives for is fair and equitable valuation. So with that, everyone's treated fairly on an even playing field. Nobody likes to pay taxes, but what people don't like even more is when they're not treated fairly. And that's really the core job of the assessors and their responsibilities is to value the town in a fair way that everyone's held to the same standards. And those standards are clearly defined in Chapter 59 of Mass General Law, which is very extensive and it takes years and years to master. Streamlining operations, I have a history of, utilizing economy of scales, renegotiating contracts, and saving money on that. Cost savings, I certainly will be able to bring cost savings to the department. Looking at the $43,000 consulting line item in their budget is that of a much larger town. With that, I know Barry, the one thing you should thank the current board is they're very active. That's not normal. A lot of boards kind of sit back and make the administrative decisions. This board is very active, and that's really good. And I know with Barry leaving, it's going to leave a seat where he does a lot of cyclical inspections. So there's going to have to be a shifting of roles. You're going to have someone in there that knows what they're doing. The money is certainly there. We would bring the consulting reliance way down. We'd be able to shift the money into doing cyclical inspections and bringing the data quality up to a level where we can maintain the fair and equitable valuations. With that, it's really that's all I have with you tonight. And I appreciate everyone coming out tonight. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I think there'll be a time allotted later on. And I wasn't sure, are we addressing those two questions now?
No, that'll be after everyone does their 5 minutes initially.
Well, thank you very much.
Steve. Jeff Jones, why he's running for selectman.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Jones. I want to thank the Lions for hosting and the registrars for hosting as well. Start off personally, I grew up in Essex. I've been married for 29 years with my family living in Essex. I have two daughters that are 21 and 24. Almost my last one out of college next month. Looking forward to that. I've been in the banking industry for 30 years at the current bank in Melrose. I've been the CEO there for 15 years, CEO and president. I'm involved in the Rotary in Melrose where I work, in the chamber where I work, and I'm on the board of the chamber there. Locally, I've been a past selectman for 12 years and on the finance board for 8. I think I've been doing the job for quite a while. I took a little bit of time off just to probably get reacquainted with my business. It takes a little time to be a selectman, and actually I probably have about 300 meetings under my belt as a selectman. We have two meetings every month. Doing that for 12 years, so there's a few extras in there that have to be done. In that time, as a selectman and on the finance committee, there's a lot of things got done in town that a lot of people don't realize that didn't cost the town any money. We actually built the sewer project. Not that it was not free, but the debt on that was free. There was a zero interest rate on that. It's not free to the taxpayers. They had to pay the principal on that, but that debt is rolling off shortly. We have a park downtown and a parking lot downtown that was built on state money. That was done under my watch as well. We have a senior center. That did cost the town some money. The project was $600,000. That only cost us $75,000 of tax dollars. So a lot of things we got done in town that probably got put off longer than they should. So that's why I'm running. I think my past experience has shown that I can get things done and get them done at a reasonable price. I'm not going to say taxes didn't go up, but they're going to go up anyway because we're such a small town. We've got a small tax base, but you have to provide services, and I understand what those services are. You've got to have police and fire. You have to have the safety departments. We have a lot of employees in town, not a lot compared to a lot of towns. I think we do a great job efficiently with a few employees. So there's no way to cut those. We've got a great DPW department. They do a great job. They plow the roads. I drive from here to Melrose every day, and it's pretty much after I leave Melrose, the roads are really bad. I mean, Essex, sorry. So we've got them we have to worry about. So there's a very small tax base that has to pay for certain services that aren't going to go away. And we've done great jobs at getting those things done. Recently, we've settled Conomo Point. The big number there is we've settled that with the DEP on the sewer. We were able to win a battle in court that allowed us to sell 2/3 of the properties out there and put $12 million in our coffers. And also, the monthly rent comes out to about $460,000 a year. Over 20-year leases, that's almost $11 million we're going to have in our pocket over the next 20 years. And that helps defray the cost of projects that have to get done. I don't think we can put those projects off. It's just a question of when they're going to get done and how fiscally responsible we can get those done. There's a couple other things we built a school, by the way, in the meantime. We did regionalize, and that whole process came together because we needed to find a place for the kids to call home. We had outsourced to Manchester, outsourced to Hamilton Wenham, outsourced to Gloucester, finally regionalized. We knew we were going to have to build a new school. We knew we were going to have to do some elementary school work. But we did get a brand new high school, middle school in Manchester, and in the negotiations, our responsibility was only 1/3 of that cost, less the 1/3 that the state paid for that as well. So we got state aid for that, and we only had to pay 1/3 of that. So going forward, anything that's done at the school by contract is about 1/3. It's based on the population. So we know we're going to have to do something in Manchester with their school and something in Essex down the road. Either one, we're only responsible for 1/3 of that by contract. And so we were able to save money by getting that contract negotiated well. So I think my experience has shown that I can do things efficiently and not put things off. 30 seconds? I didn't hear it. So yes, I think my experience speaks for itself, and I've been able to work for 6 different selectmen in my tenure, and 5 of those are still my friends. So yeah, I'll explain later. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff. So Katie, you're okay to give the 30-second, yeah. Just so you know, the timekeeper is in the front row, and she will give the 30-second mark. Andrew Spinney, why you're running for Board of Selectmen.
My name is Andrew Spinney. I'm not a natural or a career politician. I'm a longtime Essex resident who cares deeply about this town and its people, and I've decided to become candidate for selectman. I've been allotted 5 minutes, and I'll tell you briefly why I've decided to run for this office, what I hope to accomplish, and the skills I bring to the job. I grew up in Essex and have spent most of my life here. Today I live at 54 Lufkin Street with my wife Amy, our daughter Abby, and an assorted plethora of farm animals. I am vice president of Anchor Seal, a business my father and mother started in 1977. I joined the company full-time in 1986, and in the last 30 years, we've been very busy and successful. Over the years, I've also done work for Essex. I've worked for the water department, both in the lab and in the field. I was dispatcher for the police and fire departments, and I was an EMT and reserve fireman. I've never paid too much attention to town politics. I didn't vote very much, and I trusted our leaders to take care of things while I was busy providing for my family and building a business. The last few years, I've begun to notice more and hear a few complaints that bother me. Our property taxes have soared. In 2004, the tax rate was at a reasonable $10.19. By 2017, it has grown to $15.32. The property values along this time have also continued to rise. More and more families simply cannot afford to live here and have moved. Many are downright scared. We have about 3,600 residents with only 1,272 actual tax-paying homes. Yet the operating budget this fiscal year is over $17 million. It's a bit of an intolerable and unsustainable situation. The situation is made worse by what seems to be a growing distance and friction between the select board and many residents. Many townspeople feel that the board doesn't listen to them. If people don't agree with the board, they are dismissed as discontents. Many complain that the votes don't go the way the board hopes. The board will find ways to vote again and again until they get the outcome they want. Many talk about public hearings that are dominated by those who promote a proposal, while residents are forced to submit questions in writing so they can be screened. What I want to accomplish is to restore mutual respect and a sense of community. Essex has a proud history as a shipbuilding community, a town of sawyers, carpenters, painters, sailmakers, riggers, and who work together to lead the world in producing two-masted wooden schooners. I think we need to return to our roots, to rediscover the joy of working together to create a town that includes everyone. We need leaders who listen to citizens and earn their respect. I have a very different strategic plan, and it's a plan to build community. It's a plan to provide accessibility, transparency, and fiscal responsibility. I will be available to anyone who wants to talk to me. I will be answerable to the taxpayers who fund the decisions of the board. I will work to ensure that the committees post agendas well in advance, that they post complete minutes of their meetings, and that all decisions are explained clearly in writing and posted. My strategic plan is not just about new buildings and projects and endless capital expenditures, but it's about treating taxpayers as a bottomless piggy bank to create some sort of utopia town. My plan calls for living within our means the way you and I must do in our everyday family lives. Yes, the town faces many expensive needs, and some of them buildings, some infrastructure. We can't do them all at once because we need some tax relief. What we don't need are more strategic plans that are way beyond the capacity of the town to fund and support. Somehow we need to find ways to reduce the size of government instead of constantly hiring more people and expanding. I don't pretend that any of this will be easy. You can't just start hacking away at things, but I believe I bring the skills that the job requires. The ability to desire to listen, a fresh set of eyes and perspective along with good analytic skills, create problem-solving skills as an inventor and business executive, management and people skills, a practical business sense and understanding of costs and benefits and fiscal responsibility.
30 seconds.
And I bring the luxury of time. I will be a full-time selectman, not just someone who attends the mandatory meetings. I will be accessible at the farm for anyone who would like a quiet, anonymous, and secure place to voice their concern. Thank you very much for your time and consideration for Board of Selectmen.
Alvin Ingaharo, on why you're running for school committee.
Thank you for the Lions for putting this on. So, name's Alva Ingaharo. I live at 93 Martin Street. I am running for re-election for a school committee. I've been the school committee member since 2008, so it's been 9 years. I wasn't planning on running again this year, but I'll tell you later why I have decided to run again. A funny story is, many years ago in 2008, I talked to Mark and I said, Mark, I think I want to do one of the boards that has an opening. What should I do? And he's like, you should do the school committee. I'm like, I have no kids. Why would I want to do the school committee? He goes, no, we need people like you on it. So here I am 9 years later. I am a school committee member. I'm on the finance subcommittee. I do the the negotiating subcommittee. And now I'm also on the school building committee with Annie. I enjoy it. I love the committee that we have currently because we do all voice our opinions. We are a good team, and it really takes that. When you're trying to run a school that's over a $20 million budget, you need to be able to work with each other. You need to be able to pay attention not only to the needs or what people perceive as needs, but also the financial and fiscal responsibility, because everything does cost so much money, and it is daunting sometimes. And I want to also thank Rachel for running, because this is the first time I think I have anybody running against me. So I, with being on the negotiating committee, I helped to negotiate with the teachers for OPEB. OPEB's a responsibility, post-retirement responsibility that we have to take care of, and help with the negotiations, instrumental in getting teachers to help reduce their split so that we could fund that for a future, so that we're not in total debt in years to come. And also just an improving process with the school committee, making sure that we keep the website up to date. I'm always asking where does the public go for the website, because it's important that you have a place to see what we do. Our main responsibilities as a school committee member is policy and budget. We start the budget season in basically August as a preliminary, and it finishes in time for Manchester's town meeting in April. So there is plenty of information. I'm going to use this as a plug to say, please, if you have any questions, the websites are there for you to be able to get information, and so that it helps you to be able to ask questions. And on that, I don't really have 5 minutes to talk. I'm not a big public speaker. I'm just somebody who does work. And I'm probably at the school, I consider my tenure as a school committee member as a part-time job. I am there so often with everything. So I look forward to questions later.
Thanks, Alva. And Rachel Fitzgibbon on why she's running for school committee.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank the Lions for hosting and the registrar for making this all possible. I've lived in my name's Rachel Fitzgibbon. Some of you know me. I've lived in Essex 16 years at 18 Main Street with my husband, Rob, who's here in the room, and our two daughters, who were in the high school and the middle school. I just want to tell you a little bit about my background, as I have been very involved in the schools over the past decade. We came into the district, about a decade ago. Our kids came from a small Montessori school in the area, came to Essex Elementary in 3rd grade, and I just started getting involved, in school activities and volunteer efforts before we came into the district, because I wanted to kind of hit the ground running, get to know people. And I'm really glad I did that, because it kind of instilled in me a lifelong, or at least a 10-year, lifelong joy of serving our community and working with administrators and community members and parents. My reason for running is very simple, to ensure the quality of education for all learners in our community, and to make our education for our kids the very best it can be. My unique qualifications and experience have helped me shape my understanding of the importance of balancing the needs of all individuals with the strategic goals of the district. It is this understanding, coupled with my experience and interests, that make me a strong candidate. I was fortunate to grow up. I grew up actually on the other coast, and I grew up in a community that really valued public education, which instilled me with a deep respect for educators and working together as a community to make our schools the best they can be. I went on to study communications, earning a degree in journalism, and then later a degree in graphic design. My career as an effective written and visual communicator has served me well on the committees and organizations I've had the privilege to serve on over the past 10 years. And I'll just take a minute to tell you a little bit about that. We have an organization in this community called the Spalding Education Fund. Many of you are familiar with. I was co-chair of that for a year, and before that I was a steering committee member for 5 years. It was a fantastic experience, and we raised money for curriculum, for grants, for wherever the district fell short. So some of the things that we helped raise money for and fund are science and technology in the school, as well as the arts. So things like laptops, active boards, digital science and math labs, robotics team. Here at the Essex Elementary School, we brought in folk singers, authors. We did ballroom dancing for the 5th graders. It was really, really enriching and really fun. And similar to the duties of the school committee, our committee made important decisions that required keen analysis of the decisions we needed to make in terms of funding. Some of those decisions were really tough. We had, a cycle of grants every year, and we had to sit down as a committee of 8 to 10 people and review those grants, and it was really hard to say no to people because everything that came through was so wonderful and we wanted to fund everything and wish we had a money tree. But we came together as a group, and I believe that it's very, very important to have an inclusion of all perspectives and ideas when you're working in a group setting. We would often come to thoughtful consensus and support group decisions, whether it was deciding what fundraiser to embark on. When I was there, we switched from doing Lobsters to Learning to Night of Stars, which is a community talent show, and also which grants to fund that also kept in line with our mission for the Spalding Fund. I'm currently serving on the high school council, which is a group of parents, community members, staff, teachers, and the principal at the high school to basically address issues in the school. We also have two student advisors that come in. I'm really proud. One of the things I'm most proudest of is I helped pass, I formed a grassroots parents organization, community organization called CASE. Some of you may have heard of it. We helped pass the fiscal year budget for fiscal year 16. A couple years ago, it was the district had a big ask, which was an override in Manchester, as well as passing the budget here in Essex.
That's time.
So, okay, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your support on May 8th.
Thank you. Okay, and now we're going to move to the predetermined questions section. Again, we'll take it by office, and the candidates have up to 5 minutes to respond. They certainly don't have to take that time, but that is what's allotted. Again, we're going to sort of reverse the order. We are going to reverse the order of what we started. So, Mr. Poulos, you'll take the first question. That is, what are some of the most important responsibilities of the assessors in responding to taxpayers?
Really explaining the process. So when I was growing up, I certainly didn't say I want to be an assessor when I grow up. So when my first day as assistant assessor in the town of Weston, I was completely ignorant to what was going on. And I really thought that people just took a dot and threw it at a dartboard, and that was your value at the end of the year. I had no idea that there was a real science to it. So there's definitely a process to assessing. It's a lot of statistics, there's statistical modeling that comes up with, they call it a mass appraisal model, and that's how you take the sales that happen in a given year and you extrapolate those values that come out of those sales and broadcast them globally against the entire town. The assessors are also responsible for setting the tax rate and getting the bills out on time. So if you have to understand the state has a large role in the assessor's office. That's why experience is very important. If you screw up at the end of the year and you submit your values to the state for certification and your statistics are out of line, you're risking not getting a tax rate. And if you don't get a tax rate, they won't let you send out third quarter bills. And without third quarter bills, the whole budget falls apart. So it's certainly a very important role. Beyond explaining the process to the taxpayers and bringing them on board and really helping them understand what's going on kind of behind the black curtain in the assessor's office is the exemption programs. The Mass General Law allows for statutory exemptions for the elderly, low income, blind, veterans. All these things are exemptions. They're state programs. It comes out of the overlay budget, out of the assessor's office initially, and then a large portion of it is refunded back to the town. It's something that the assessors get to be the good guy and really market and let the residents know that there's money there for people who are in trouble paying their tax bill every year. That's really something important that assessor's offices really need to conscious effort to report to the public. Really just ultimately just maintain a confidence level that their assessments are fair and equitable, and that the entire tax base is held against the same standards, and everybody's on a level playing field. And that's it. Are we just doing one question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah. Thank you.
Michael Cataldo, same question. What are some of the most important responsibilities of the assessors in responding to taxpayers?
I agree with what Steve has just said. I think one of the principal things an assessor can do is help people out through the process. Provide the information, show them where to go to find it, make sure that they're in agreement with what they're being provided and that it's current, and that do whatever you can to help them out to kind of minimize the amount of aggravation that they're going through during the process.
Thanks, Michael. The second predetermined question was, how would you deal with conflict resolution? Steve Poulos.
Certainly in the assessing office, the best way of conflict resolution is to find common ground. As I mentioned before, assessing, there's certainly a science to it. It's a lot of statistics, it's modeling, it's numbers. There's a lot of factual information that's not, it's really not really debatable. So when there's a disagreement, I find it's best to take a few steps back, start at the bottom level and find common ground and just work your way through the process and find out where the disagreements are. And as long as both sides have rational assumptions, at the end of the day, it's an opinion of value, and that in the opinion, it's certainly going to be room for finding that common ground and finding the value that makes sense to both parties.
Thanks, Steve. Michael Cataldo, same question. How would you deal with conflict resolution?
I know years ago in the Essex Assessor's office, there was a gentleman who used to say you would just let them go to appeal, to file an appeal, to go to the state, to take it to court, and let them decide ultimately. I think we owe the taxpayer more. And I agree with what Steve just said, that the best way to go about it is to look at what the issues are, to try and reach a compromise, and do everything you can to accommodate people along the way.
Okay, and now we will take questions from the audience for the assessors candidates. You can ask one or both candidates a question. Candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to a question. Are there any questions? And when you do stand up, please identify yourself. Go ahead.
Dan here, Liberty Road. Question. In Essex, where we have the same tax rate for commercial or residential property, I'm just curious what your thoughts on that. I have both on my commercial property where I benefit from it, and somebody who has a house that doesn't generate any income from their house pays the same tax rate for a commercial property.
Is that for both candidates?
Sure.
Okay.
I guess I think you're asking about a split rate, or whether.
In other towns, I have split rate.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, it really has to make sense financially for the town. So what you'll see in a town like Essex, where the tax base is heavily weighted to the residential side, probably to the tune of 96%, 97% residential. What you'll see is when you start shifting the tax burden onto the commercial properties, the taxes on the commercial side go up so much more disproportionate to the residential side. So you'll see a situation where, the commercial bill will go up 50%, and the resident base is only going to realize a 2 or 3% decrease. So at that point, it really doesn't make sense. It's not fair to shift that kind of burden onto the commercial base for such a minimal gain on the other side. It doesn't mean any more money for the town. All you're doing is you're taking the same amount you can tax levy at the end of the year, and you're shifting the burden from one class to the other. So it's by changing the rate, it doesn't mean that you're going to get more money at the end of the year. It just means you're basically dividing the town into two classes, residential and business, and you're deciding who's going to pick up a bigger burden of that same amount of money. And it certainly you could look at the numbers and see, but it typically doesn't make sense in a community that's mostly residential.
Okay. Thanks. Michael, same question. Do you need it?
I would tend to agree. I think
Michael, can you come to the microphone if it's okay?
with the town of Essex being so heavily weighed towards the residential, I think it would not make sense to basically take a commercial rate.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Any other questions for the assessor candidates?
Hi, Mr. Mayo, 35 Water Street. One problem I ran into when working with the assessor's office is just the real small amount of data that the town has. We just don't have a lot of sales. And I think that really, when some of these factors boil down to very small amounts of data, 3, 4, 5 homes, it can be extremely problematic. And I was wondering what your thoughts are as to at what point does the data just not work?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you have to deal with the data you're given. The state requires us to use, to use the sales in a given calendar year. If you don't have a certain percentage of the class, you can go out to 24 months. But with that said, that's just for the submission of the values. When we have a class that has a small amount of sales, what we'll do is we'll forecast out. We'll go out to present, and then we can go back 5, 6, 7 years, and then you time trend those sales to build a sample of data that's relevant. We also recently we're leveraging GIS, the Geographic Information System, where we build virtual neighborhood maps, and we can time trend the sales in the different neighborhoods to be able to visualize the data in the different neighborhood delineations to make the data more accurate at the end of the year. So, again, that a small sample, it really, there are ways around it.
Michael?
I have nothing to add.
Okay. And for the record, I did not do that order correctly, so I'll try harder on the Board of Selectmen section. Okay, so without any further questions for the assessor candidates, and thank you, assessor candidates, and we have one more question.
Scott Solomon, on Black County Road. Could you talk about the importance of conservation land in town, and do you believe that there should be an assessment to conservation land currently?
Michael, would you take that first, that we should alternate the order? The question is, should we have an assessment on conservation land in town? Is that correct?
You mean above what currently exists? No, I think I'm perfectly happy with the way that the conservation land is structured in town these days, and want to see it preserved for what it is.
Mr. Poulos?
I think with conservation, you have to be careful, because there's different types of conservation, and there's chapter land, which is not conservation to the sense, but it's certainly an avenue for reduction in taxes. There's conservation where you have public assets, there's conservation where you don't have public assets, there's conservation where it's donated to a municipality or a nonprofit exempt organization where it can be completely removed from the tax rolls. But you also have to realize that in the conservation that stays in private hands, there's certainly the conservation restriction on it, although you can't build on it, there's certainly a market value to it, and it's certainly in a state property where you have a parcel in the middle, and you've created an estate around it of conservation land, where it's not technically part of the building envelope parcel, but it's certainly contributing to the value of the parcel in the middle. Now, it's still in private hands, so there's still a marketable value to that. By depressing all the conservation values, it's reducing the tax rate to the point where it can become, in the future, unaffordable for people to live here. Where as the tax base gets smaller, the burden gets shifted to the residents that do live here, and it increases the tax rate for the residents of the town.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the Board of Selectmen section now. The first predetermined question was, what do you feel are current challenges that are facing the town, and what solutions do you propose to meet those challenges? And we'll start with Mr. Spinney.
It's
pretty long laundry list. Water pipes came up, elementary school rehab. It goes on and on and on. I'm not against any of the projects per se. Don't get me wrong, as some people have said, I'm just trying to block things from happening. Not at all. The police station, the fire station, we need our public safety buildings for certain. Prioritizing, slowing them down just a touch so that we get the tax people to be able to not have empty pockets and put smiles back on their faces instead of grumbling every quarter when the tax bill comes is a beginning. So prioritize them, work with the departments, the heads, figure out what they need to get done, who wants to get it done first, and the feasibility of getting those projects done first, and then go from there.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, I'll repeat the question. What do you feel are current challenges that are facing the town, and what solutions do you propose to meet those challenges?
What Mr. Spinney was referring to is a master plan, if you will, or that was developed by a committee, input from the residents about what they want to do in town over the next, say, 10 years, what needs to be done. The pipes are on there, they're definitely on there. There's a school on there. There is, the town building is certainly, safety building has to be done. But I see those as action items. I don't see that as a challenge per se. I see those as an action item in a plan. The biggest challenge for Essex is the tax base. It is so small, but we have to have certain services every year. So that's the biggest challenge, is how to get that balance of how we're going to afford to do the basic services and then add on those action items in that plan. And you prioritize those, and you do them efficiently. We can do a lot of those projects as debt rolls off. We have sewer debt right now that'll roll off in 2024. That's about $12 million in debt that we incurred. That'll roll off in 2024. We've got the high school that we paid for, a third of which we paid for. There's about $12,000 in debt that's going to roll off in about 2028. So all those projects, action items on that plan, not all of them require money, can be afforded once you have that debt roll off. But like I said, those are action items in a plan, not the challenge. The challenge is, how do we get to pay for that with such a small tax base? Our tax base, we probably have 1,000 single-family homes compared to the state of Massachusetts. Out of the 371 towns, we have 3,500. They have 3,500 compared to our 1,000. It's very difficult to run a town with such a small tax base with all of those items that you have to do on a daily basis. Regardless if you do any capital items at all, it's very difficult to not raise your taxes, and we're allowed to go up 2.5% without an override, because we have to provide those services. We have teachers, we have employees that are going to get a raise every year. Those items have to be done. So that's the challenge, is how do you manage that small tax base with the items that need to get done? And I think I explained some of those, but that's part of question 2. So.
And you'll take question 2 first, so if you want to stay.
I'm going to segue right into that. So
Question,
I'm sorry.
I have to read the question.
I know the question.
Some challenges come with a price tag. How do you propose the town meet their obligations and tackle the upcoming fiscal needs?
As I just stated, there's some items we have on the agenda. We have water pipes. They have to be replaced. They're really old and dangerous, actually. We have a safety building we have to pay for at some point. The one we have, you'll see it on, let's see, the 8th when you go to vote. The floor in the fire department in the bays is collapsing. It is collapsing. You'll see steel plates over that when you walk in and vote on the 8th. So there's no question that has to be replaced. You do that, as I stated before, as debt rolls off, the tax rate stays the same as you incur that debt. The other thing, and I'm going to take some credit for it, is the fact that we settled Canoma Point, and that raised $12 million. We just paid for the renovation of a town hall without tax dollars. Any tax increase in your dollars, by the way. And we have that $11 million in constant revenue for 20 years. That's going to help pay for these items over time. Because debt is not a bad thing. A lot of debt is a bad thing, but debt is not a bad thing. It helps you afford to pay for things over time, not all at once. So that's how I would suggest we pay for the items that need to get done.
Thanks, Jeff. Mr. Spinney, and I'll repeat the question. Some challenges come with a price tag. How do you propose the town meet their obligations and tackle the upcoming fiscal needs?
The fire station was brought up the other day in conversation that there are steel plates. The dirt has settled underneath the floor, causing the floor concrete to settle along with it. Those people were concrete contractors, and they said that the concrete could be pulled up, new dirt put in, resettled, and new floor put in the span of a week or so. So there are probably a lot of different answers on these questions and different routes we can take. And I've seen plans for the new police station, the new fire station. They're pretty tall orders, and I don't have an answer, to be honest with you, yet on where that money's gonna come from, other than from you. So, that's it.
Thanks, Mr. Spinney. Okay, those are the two predetermined questions. We will take questions from the audience for the selectmen candidates, again, to one or both. Just let us know who you're directing your questions to. When I recognize you, please introduce yourself and where you're from. In the back.
Beth Story, Lumerin Road. These issues of a small tax base and what are the minimum service level have been with Essex for its entire history. They've also are issues that every small town in the Commonwealth struggles with and deals with. Everyone in a town is going to have views on what services are the most important and what ones we're spending too much money on. The concern I have is the assumption is, at least in the existing Board of Selectmen, and you know, I think over the last 10 or 15 years in the town, the assumption has become not...
Mrs. Story, do you have a question?
Yes, how can we lower taxes, but how can we get everything we want? So my question to you is, both selectmen, please, candidates.
Sure.
Is how would you propose lowering taxes? Do you think taxes should be lowered? And if so, what would you like to see happen?
Mr. Spinney, I think you're next up, if I'm correct.
As a taxpayer, I would certainly like to see my taxes go down. It's pretty steep. Bringing on too much debt at once, like was previously mentioned, is a bad thing. But if you've got to carry that debt to the taxpayers and have them pay for it, their pockets will be thinner and they're going to be more scared because they're running out. Where do we go next? What if something hiccups? We don't have the ability to recover from that, or at least not without issue.
Mr. Jones.
So the question is, how would I reduce taxes?
Do you agree that taxes should be lowered? And if so, how would you approach it?
I would, as a selectman, I would love to be able to reduce taxes. I don't control the taxes, actually. The town voters control the taxes and how much taxes are. To be honest with you, I don't think it's very likely that taxes will go down. I'm just being honest, because of the tax base. We are at a certain level that there's only so many people paying for the services that we need. How it can go down is over time with the debt we have. As I explained before, debt is going to roll off in 2024, 2028. That's about $24 million in debt that we will no longer have, maybe up to 2030. We could not do anything and not spend anything and have that debt roll off and accomplish nothing, and your taxes might go down. So, like I said, I'm being honest. I don't really think that taxes could go down. They may, if we don't do anything and we let all that debt roll off. And I believe if you wanted to lower taxes, you would, A, not spend any money and have to lay off people in town. And I don't think we have room to lay people off in town.
Thanks, Mr. Jones. Any other questions for the Board of Selectmen candidates? Yes, introduce yourself, please.
Amy Spinney from Lufkin Street. I have a question towards Jeff Jones. So we have seen that people are forced out of town because they increase tax rate. And you are saying we have to fix the problems with increasing the tax rate because we have a small population. So to me, it's kind of like that circle, right? You keep increasing the tax rate, and then more people moving out of town. And then we have less tax income because you have all those huge projects you want to accomplish. So how would you try to address this kind of debt circle? You know, you said you have no way to lower the tax rate, but people are forcing out of town, And with fewer population, you're gonna keep increasing the tax rate to meet all your projects.
Actually, I think the population has grown. People, I'm not aware of people moving out of town because they can't afford to. People move.
I heard the story from people.
Well, that's really not, that's a debatable issue that we can't prove one way or the other, so I think we have to set that aside.
But to your question, I didn't say we do them all tomorrow. We're not going to do them all tomorrow. We're going to do them over time when it makes sense to and we can afford it and minimize tax increases with that debt rolling up. Yes, you're going to continue having debt. We're fortunate to have debt on our books that is at 0% for the sewer and I think around 2% for the high school. That's very low. And then when that rolls off to 4% or 5%, it's a high rate.
Okay, this isn't a dialogue. You asked a question, he's answering it.
I have to know the data points to validate his answer.
So I just explained. So the debt is going to roll off. We're not going to do it all at once. We're going to do it in a fiscally responsible manner as the debt rolls off. How can I explain this? You buy a car, you have a loan, it goes for 6 years. If you get rid of your car and you go buy another car, you're going to have debt, but you're not going to increase your debt. You're going to replace your car with the same amount of debt. That happens every day to everyday people. And that's how you typically have to run the town where you can incur debt. It's going to roll. I don't see we're going to have any more debt than we have now, but you're going to fund those when the debt rolls off. That's how you keep getting stuff done.
Okay, any other questions for the Board of Selectmen? I think I saw Mr. Fitzgibbon's hand first.
Hey, Ralph Fitzgibbon, 18 Main Street. The question I have for you guys is, both of you, about, we talk a lot about Essex being for shipbuilders, but it's also a town of software developers. And I want you to tell me about what are you going to do to encourage new economy, new thinking for the town.
Mr. Jones, I think you're up.
I think actually Mr. Mayor asked a question. I think the assessors, we have the same tax rate whether you run a business or not. I think it's very attractive to business to move into town. Their taxes are going to be the same. They bring in business, they make money, but their tax rate's the same. I think by making the town as good as it is, by keeping it relevant, keeping things up to date, it keeps people moving in and new people moving in, so they want to move in, and I think that will create some business and then to come in.
Mr. Spinney?
As I believe the zoning is set up, you could put a software company right next to my farm, I believe. There are a few industrial type areas where those types of businesses could go without impacting a neighbor and, such. But I definitely agree with Jeff that at the rates they are set up, bring them on in.
Thank you. Other questions? Mr. Madsen?
Ralph Madsen from Pond Street. For both candidates, can you give me your assessment of the financial status of the community?
Mr. Spinney? And he didn't stand either. He just stand
Sorry.
up, Mr. Madsen.
And I should know that. My question was, could each candidate give their opinion on a financial assessment of Essex?
It seems as though we're losing houses, which brings along losing tax rate, taxes coming in. It seems a slippery slope to me that if you keep doing that, where are you going to go? So you'll have to build new houses and bring in new taxes in order just to float. It doesn't seem a good direction to me. We lost the houses at the Point. Those were tax rate, right? No?
Okay.
They had to pay taxes, property taxes. No, I didn't answer the question.
No, I'm saying let you answer the question.
Yeah, Mr. Spinney, please don't ask questions of the audience, just answer the question.
I lost my train of thought and my track. I don't have enough experience in the town government to be able to give you an honest answer without trying to blow smoke.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
I just got to clarify, you're talking about the town itself or the people in town? Their financial.
Talking about, my question is, financially, what's our status today?
I think
As a financial
Referring to
entity.
the solvency of the town, the financial position,
Yeah.
the financial health of the town.
I think we're financially strong right now. in reference to Canoma Point, the question was, they were paying taxes, the tenants that is, on leased land. It was a reduced rate on a house that was indeterminate who owned it. Since the sales have happened, actually the value of those properties have gone up. The taxes have increased on those properties because now they own them, the value went up, and we're collecting more taxes on those properties. The rent has gone up, I don't know, three times to a market rate, and so we've reduced the whole area down there by 2/3 of the town owning it and increasing the rent by 300%. I think that we're in pretty good shape for that. We've raised the meals tax amount, we've increased that, so that's about $200,000 extra a year in our budget for revenue every year. I think we've increased the revenue side and control our expenses very well. So I think we're in pretty good shape.
Thanks, Jeff. Any other questions for the Board of Selectmen candidates?
Hi, my name is John Hickey, and I live on Belcher Street. I have a question. We continue to talk about capital investments coming down the line, and I'm sometimes concerned. I hear one time we're going to refurbish this school and then build a new school over in Manchester, and then I hear there's not going to be that. I'm really never sure because, again, when I go to the meetings, I kind of leave kind of more confused than I go when I walk in the door. So I look about that, and then I look at the public safety building. These are all costs that are going to come off. And I hear, rolling debt coming off in the year 2028 or 2030 is what I heard. So now I'm not sure if it's 2028 or 2030. And then I'm looking at that now 20 years from now. And then I also look at like the school coming off in 2024. And I look at that point, the school was probably run its course on how old it is at that point.
Hey, Mr. Hickey,
So my question is, what are we going to do? Where is the money going to come from? And how do you propose without the rolling debt? And how are we going to pay for it? And again, because the tax base has gone up considerably since I came here 21 years ago.
I think am I first on this one, or am I not?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So in reference to the schools, they've already started the process for Manchester's elementary school and doing an assessment and replacing that school. As I stated before, our contract and our agreement with them, we only have to pay for 1/3 of that school. A third is, I don't know what the number is because they haven't assessed and what it's going to cost to replace it. But we've set that in place. We only have to pay for 1/3 of that. Somewhere down the road, we're going to do this school. We've maintained this. I'm not going to offend anyone in Manchester. We've maintained this building, I believe, much better than they've maintained their buildings. We don't have to do this for 10 years probably or more. I'm not sure what the number is. We haven't done a recent assessment. It's in fine shape, but at some point it's going to have to be replaced. Not tomorrow, what Manchester is going to have to be replaced. The safety building, there's issues there, as we already stated. That's going to have to be replaced. Not tomorrow, but this starting the plan process of when are we going to do that, how are we going to do that, where we're going to put that. Yes, it can be debt. It may be an override. We also have a net of about $7.5 million left over for capital projects from Canoma Point to put towards those projects. Those are set aside for capital projects, that income. So that's how you're going to, or we need an override. But yeah, it's painful. But you have a safety issue in town. The police and fire, it's falling down around them. They've already moved to the modulars out back. We were lucky enough to get someone to donate those because we weren't going to pay for them, which is sad, quite frankly, that we wouldn't provide for our police. Someone else in town had to. So yes, we're going to have to do things. We can stagger those when the debt comes off, but it gets to the point where you might as well do it before it's catastrophic. And that could be an override. That's unfortunate. It could be with the debt the income we have from Canoma Point, or it could be when you wait longer till the debt that we have coming off in about, I think it's 2024. I forgot my sheet, but I have it.
Thanks.
So, thanks.
Mr. Spinney?
Once again, without coming into this kind of blindly, that question, I don't think I have too much to add to it.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're going to move on to the Regional School Committee section. There are three predetermined questions for these candidates. First will be Rachel Fitzgibbon. And the first question is, what challenges are facing the district and what solutions do you propose to meet those challenges?
Where's everybody going? Okay.
Do I have to use the gavel?
Well played.
Mrs.
Yes.
Cataldo.
Just 50% of our tax dollar. Since our fiscal year 2016, our schools are on a much better financial footing. I just want to reassure everybody about that. We had a big ask, as I mentioned when I spoke earlier, to fund a decade of growth. Our schools are very, very excellent. They're ranked 14th in the state. We're very proud of that, and we want to keep that level of excellence. But I also know that we have a fiscal responsibility as school committee members to look at the big asks here in our town. We have municipal buildings in both towns that are requiring upkeep. As the Selectmen mentioned, the pipes, our safety building, and I think the other one is the 10-year sewer system here in town. But our schools are in, as I mentioned, great financial footing. We have actually been able to maintain this building with the, from that financial footing that we gained by passing the budget in 2016 and meet all of our financial responsibilities that way. This school has a good few years left in it. It is going to need some upkeep, though, to maintain the quality of education for our kids. So I would just urge and support our school district to continue to work with municipalities in both towns and the district to prioritize and to keep an eye on our budgets and do what's right for our future of our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Alva Ingahara, same question. What current challenges are facing the district, and what solutions do you propose to meet those challenges?
So every year, it is always the budget. As I mentioned before, the two main areas that we concentrate on are budget and policy. And the budget is always a huge issue because we do have to not just worry about just the school, we have to worry about the towns. The solution that we have come up with, and it's been working quite well, is actually start collaborating with the towns early on to get an idea of what their concerns are. We've put together a long-term plan. I believe we go out to 5 years to try and see where the budget looks like it's going to go. But I shouldn't say the problem, because the concern with school systems is it's ever-changing. If you have a large population that may have to be out of district costs are much higher. If another year you bring the cost down there, you may have something else. And then we have both the capital on both buildings that have to be maintained. Just recently, although we're looking at doing work on the Manchester School, the boiler died this year. So there's these types of costs that you just never know. And all of that has to go into our general budget and our capital budget. The other issue, the concern that I see coming down the pike is the social and emotional wellness of the kids, students, teachers. It's a big issue right now that we have to, as a school district, keep an eye on. Look for training to help, both training with the teachers and to help empower the children to be, more encourage them, self-awareness, self-management, resilience. These are things that 10 years ago you didn't have to worry about, and now that they're in the forefront, and you do have to worry about how do we handle this. And then, of course, the other challenge I see coming is the two school buildings, to try and have a balance. Make sure Essex still has their voice. We do only pay a third, but when you're talking paying a third of both buildings, it's still out of our pocket. Feels like a whole lot more than just a third. And the solution really is hopefully transparency, keeping communications open both with the towns and with the townspeople so that they can ask questions, they can feel that we're not trying to hide something and get something by, but to be able to come to us when they have concerns, whether it's about their child or it is about, what are we doing with the building. So.
Would you like to stay up the
Oh,
question, too?
geez.
And I'll read the question while you get your notes.
I have to get my notes.
It's a long question. How do you balance constrained budgets with the increasing demands placed on schools by regulations, increasing social service support needs, and community expectations?
So, you know, and as far as a balance, that's exactly what it is. It's a balance. It's making sure you're keeping yourself up to date of what's going on in not just your little community, but in the rest of the state, so that you can be aware of what's coming before it actually hits your community. It's communication with both the AC, the administration council from the school, knowing what's coming. It's paying attention and listening to the students. We have a student on the board, so we actually get to hear what they think about some of the rules and that changes that we've made. So we really do take a promoting of transparency and making sure the websites are up to date, making sure that the meeting notes from the meetings. One of the biggest issues, like a lot of school boards have to go through, we don't get a lot of participation from parents. You know, and that's kind of sad, because we're spending an awful lot of money and we want to hear your voice. The good thing is listening to others on the street and listening to, you know, at parents at games, you hear, or going at the coffee shop and listening to people when they have their concerns. So I do believe that the balance is really just listening to what's out there and then trying to come up with creative solutions to help, whether it's a budgetary constraint or it's a social emotional constraint.
Thanks, Alva. Rachel Fitzgibbon, same question. How do you balance constrained budgets with the increasing demands placed on schools by regulations, increasing social service support needs, and community expectations?
So as a parent of two daughters, I have a daughter in the high school and a daughter in the middle school, which I mentioned before. I feel like I have a good ear to what's going on in the school, both schools actually. I hear a lot I go to a lot of soccer games, I've coached soccer, I listen to, as I mentioned, I'm in school council and have been on the middle school council. I think being a really active listener is key. School issues are very personal to parents, and as Alva mentioned, I agree with her, we do not have enough participation from parents, and we are spending a lot of money, taxpayer money. I do think being more transparent, more proactive. I think all school committee members and anybody who does volunteer for the schools does a really good job of talking to people on the street, talking to parents, talking to teachers, talking to staff members, talking to administrators. I certainly like to know what's going on at all times. I think it's very important to bring that information back to the school committee and really be transparent, keep the website up to date. There's nothing more frustrating than trying to find something, some information. And being available as a school committee member is very important. Encouraging people to call with any questions, whether it's social, emotional well-being of a child, or a tax, you know, why are my taxes high? What's going on with the school buildings? I'm concerned about this. I think on the whole, the school committee is very approachable, which is great. It's a small community and that fosters that. So I'd like to see that continue. I think just careful and thoughtful analysis, as Alva also mentioned, the balance, and prioritizing our goals. You know, we've got these two big asks coming up of rebuilding possibly two schools or reconfiguring them. So we've got some challenges coming up, but I think if we can balance everything, work together as a team, come to a consensus, and keep our eyes and ears open for what are the issues that are key to residents and taxpayers and parents is important. So thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. If you want to stay, you're up to the next one,
right.
too. And I'll read the question. This is our third and final question for the school committee candidates. What experience do you have working on a team that must come to consensus on issues of policy and finance?
So probably my experience with the Spalding Education Fund was very rewarding to me in terms of answering this question. We had a mission statement and a policy statement, as well as some very pretty big budgets that we were, or a fund that we were working with. I'm happy to say that we worked really well as a team to come to consensus. I think it's very important to stay open-minded, to listen to all viewpoints and all perspectives, and to really think creatively, think outside the box, as it will. And so being a co-chair of Spalding and first being a steering committee member and doing more of the kind of grunt work of fundraising and making phone calls and whatnot, the phone-a-thon, and talking to people really taught me some valuable skills with how to do that. And also helping the school committee pass the budget as a community volunteer was enormously helpful. And I want to bring those skills to the school committee. I feel like I've done almost a decade of sort of working in and around and behind the scenes, and I really want to bring everything that I've learned to the school committee with a fresh perspective. So thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Alva Ingahara, same question. What experience do you have working on a team that must come to consensus on issues of policy and finance?
So I've worked at a global IT software company since 2000. When I say global, I've learned that working for a global company is like working for the U.S. government. And so is the school committee, because you have to listen to what people are saying. You can't jump in and answer for them. So it's helped me work both with working there and being on the school committee for the last 9 years to hear what people have to say, understand what the concerns are, and being able to think outside the box how to articulate responses to them, because sometimes they're not going to always like the responses that you have. And it's one of the things that I'm always saying at the school committee, unfortunately, we can't please everybody. There's no way to do that. Salaries still go up, and feelings get hurt. It's a very emotional position with the school committee. You're talking about somebody's child, you're talking about somebody's favorite teacher, you're talking about somebody's favorite sports coach. So having now been, almost 18 years, have been working on teams for a very long time. Right now, as I mentioned earlier, the school committee that we currently have has a great working relationship. None of us have a problem with voicing our concerns or our opinions, and also listening to the other person's concerns and opinions. And so I think that I have the experience, plenty of experience with team working.
Thanks, Alva. Okay, now we'll take questions from the audience for the school committee candidates. Again, just identify yourself when you stand up.
Virginia Antel, Town Treasurer Collector. The question is that for all the residents of Essex that are in the sewer district, they have 10 more years to pay for their sewer loan. As Selectman-elect Jones mentioned, that will also roll off the town's debt in a few years. Do we know when these schools have to be built? Because my understanding is you always want to, you take debt, which is great. 2004, the town did not have a bond rating. I got the town's first bond rating, a double A, a single A stable. Today, we're a double A. We're doing the right things. We're small. So there's not a lot we can do. Either the values of your property goes up or your tax rate goes up. That's the way it works. Sometimes it both go up. But if we can give the residents a sense of when debt's going to roll off and when the schools need to come on, I think that might be helpful. Is the school committee, I'm asking both, aware of when that's going to happen as yet?
I'm a little bit, although that's a great question, Ginny, I'm a little uncomfortable because it's kind of a question for the current school committee. Ms. Cameron? Well, okay, that's different. Do you know versus, okay. Do you know, I guess, is prefacing that question.
She's in the know. So the current middle school, high school debt is due to roll off, I believe it's 2033. We did just have a reduction in a bond rating, so we got a savings. And as far as, I believe the question kind of was, does the buildings actually have to be done? So unfortunately, come take a walk through Manchester Memorial. It's got to be done. It is in poor shape. On the website, there is the Habib report, which really shows. And as I mentioned, this winter, the boiler went. So the roof's on the verge of going. There's tiles peeling up everywhere. There's windows. Both Lisa and Annie are here, so if afterwards you want to ask them, they can, confirm with you. It has to happen soon. And soon probably means, are we saying 2020?
I'm sorry. That's,
No, I just wanted to be able to say what year they're talking.
well, everyone does, but that's why I
So-
was uncomfortable with the question. So, thank you, Alva. Rachel, do you want to speak to that? I'm sorry. Just go up to the mic, please. If,
I would just reiterate what she said. I have reviewed, being as not the incumbent, but a new candidate, I have reviewed the school building committee report, and Memorial is definitely first in the running. We've done a good job of maintaining this building, which the school district is proud of, and Essex residents should be proud of. Their building is about 8 years older than ours. They're both about in the 60 to 65-year range of how old they are. So the feasibility study has started with Memorial, and as you know, Essex will follow that. And I would say it's got to happen within the next 10 to 15 years at least for Essex. And I think Manchester would be in the next 5 years. So as a safe bet. So.
okay, thank you. Other questions for the school committee members? I think I saw Mr. Hickey's hand first.
Yeah, you can tell I'm kind of into fiscal things. First of all, I want to thank all of you guys, because you take a lot of abuse and you're not getting paid to do this. I couldn't do it personally, so that's not my question. My question is, it really comes down to finances, and I kind of look at it, and I look at the school, especially the school. I see there's going to be a school built in Manchester, and now it's the year 2018, and in 2026 there's going to be a school probably built here. And I again, maybe I'm not as going to enough meetings and whatever, but the fact is I kind of look at this and I'm going, why aren't we looking to regionalize one school, and instead of paying, which I've been told is going to be $60 million, and a third of that is $20 million. I got math at a Catholic school. So that $20 million is going to be our responsibility. So if we could put a school, either, I know the people in Manchester really don't want to come to Essex.
Mr. Hickey, what is your question?
My question is, why aren't we looking to regionalize the grade schools as we have the middle school and high school? Bring them to one place.
I'll clarify that. The grade schools are regionalized. You're saying, why don't we have one facility? And that's the question, and I forget who's up.
I'm definitely going to need that knee replacement by the time this meeting's over. So, John, we had meetings here, we had forums here. The general consensus was we wanted to keep neighborhood schools. It is, and I'm seeing faces in the audience shaking their head. I'm probably closer to your area. Wouldn't it be great if we just had, but at the same token, it's what's best for the children, and if neighborhood schools are what's best, then we have to go with the consensus of the public.
Thanks, Alva. And Rachel, would you like to speak to that?
I'm pretty much going to second what Alva said. There was an extensive study and focus groups, as well as a parental survey that went out to all parents, and there was an overwhelming basically an overwhelming thought that people wanted to keep neighborhood kids, young kids, neighborhood, community, students, young students in the district, in their respective towns. So just reiterating what Alva said, that was very important to parents.
Thanks, Rachel. I think we had a question here.
Greg Cooper from Essex Reach Road. My daughter actually goes to this school. She's a fourth grader here. An October test on October 5th actually showed that this school had excessive lead and copper levels in the drinking water. So the corrective action was the kids should bring a water bottle. So what are we going to do about that before we actually poison the actual kids in this town? So please.
So Rachel, I think you're up for first. We're alternating her.
Yeah. Great question. I do have friends that have kids here in the elementary school that were alarmed by that as well. That is a little bit out of my wheelhouse, since I do not, I'm not currently on the school committee and have not heard of how they're going to be tackling this issue. I imagine that has to do with the water pipes. However, it is as a parent, it's the last thing you want to hear. So I'm not exactly sure what the school committee, what tack they're taking, and so I'm hoping that Alva can speak to that a little bit more. But it's, you know, we have all the bubblers here in the building, and if kids can't use them, that's not good. So I would imagine that the school committee is either addressing that issue or bringing it up. So, okay, thanks.
Thank you, Rachel. Alva?
So I honestly did not realize this was not brought up in the school committee in October. My understanding was that we did have filtration systems put in, but I haven't heard any details about it. So I'm going to say that our next school committee, I'll talk to Pam tomorrow to find out where we stand with that. I do know that I have seen buckets for water here, so I don't know if that's what part of the solution. So I'll have to check into it.
Thanks, Alva. And I think we had another question in the back.
I'm a former teacher, and so I'm well aware of the importance of being a former and a current parent and a grandparent and care about quality education. But I'm also a taxpayer. And my question to you is, you've got a tension in the roles that you have to play as a member of the school committee. Part of your job is to advocate and get the best kind of situation for our kids that you possibly can. And probably most people see that as the whole job. But there's also the part of your job that involves representing those of us who are not currently parents of school-aged children, but are still paying taxes. And I guess I'm interested to hear how you balance that tension and how you feel, how much discussion and how much priority that tension should get in the deliberations of the school committee.
Well, I have no children in the school system, have never had children in the school system. So I am probably the financial heir on the school committee, we deliberate very long and hard over every subject during budget season, whether it's, whether we had to no longer allow additional sports to be put on because we just can't afford additional costs. So yeah, you do have an ear with me on the school committee. I do make sure that, I'm not going to say that I stamp my feet every time, but I do want to make sure that we're being efficient and that we're doing the best for the school, for the children, but with a fiscal responsibility.
Thanks, Alva. Rachel?
I am a parent, and I'm also running for school committee, so I understand the tension, and I definitely, and I'm also a taxpayer. So I think that it is our fiscal responsibility to not, when we passed the budget, when the school district passed the budget in fiscal year 16, we had 3 scenarios, which some of you may be aware of. We had sort of the Cadillac, and then we had the Toyota Camry, and then we had kind of the fruit cart of all the different kind of scenarios for the budget. And we debated long and hard. I mean, obviously, the Cadillac is really nice to have. Everything works, it's wonderful, and we give our kids the world, but we went for the middle of the road, which I supported wholeheartedly because the bare bones was just that, it was bare bones. So we do deliberate, at the meetings that I've attended, and there've been many, the school committee does deliberate long and hard. Every single parent in that room and every contributor in that room, every school committee member is also a taxpayer and is very aware of the constraints on those residents in both towns who no longer have children in the district. So I would say that I would be a good listener and somebody that would really make sure checks and balances that our school committee is doing everything it can to maintain quality education without, emptying people's pockets. So, thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Mr. Bradford.
Bill Bradford County Road, 30 seconds, that's all, 30 seconds.
I'll believe that when I see it.
It's impressive. Lion's motto is "We serve," and I commend you people for serving, for volunteering to serve. The problem, of course, we have in the community is money, money, money. And I think you understand that over 94% of all the land in Essex is conservation and wetlands. So when you're talking about new buildings, new businesses, etc., you've got a money problem. But I want to say this about the school committee. As you know, some of you, that my boys went through K through 12. And in this community now, when you talk to realtors, they talk about people want to come to Essex because of the school system. And I hope you people will continue that in the community. My question is, though, I was with Connie Perigo this morning for breakfast. Connie is the matriarch of the retired teachers of Essex Elementary School. I don't hear too well, that's why I speak so loud, I guess. And what happens is, I think she said she was so proud that the two selectmen both went to kindergarten when she taught. Is that true?
That was your question? Where they
You went in her house? Wow. Do you remember what year that would have been?
Those were great comments, so I allowed them. Any other questions for the school committee candidates? Okay, I want to thank all the candidates for being here tonight and for giving such thoughtful answers. And thank you all for coming.